Hello and welcome back to Scriptcase by Jamie. And yes, I still have here the Let's Plan wallpaper up because essentially we are still planning within this episode. And yes, this is episode 2 of the first project that we are developing. And do you know what it is yet? Because I don't know what it is yet. So I'm glad you know, but at the moment the only thing that I do know is that it is a customer client management area. And as you can hear, I still have the window open. It is still an amazing day today. And yes, I won't be recording all of these videos in one day, but I will be recording a few of them. So I'm sorry, the birds are there to stay. And they sound amazing. Believe me, living here in Portugal was probably one of the best decisions I have made in my life. Even though it has been tough, and it is tough, it's still amazingly great. Amazingly great, even if that is a word. Okay, so let's dive in, shall we? Where were we? We were here at our project idea, customer and company management. And this is what we are creating to start off with. Now, it will become something more than that, but for now, that's what it is. And there is a big reason behind that. And of course, the idea is let's start off slow. We all start off slow. I had to start off slow. Scriptcase is humongous. And there's a lot more to it than just developing platforms or creating applications, should I say, in Scriptcase. There is processes to think of. There is your database to think of. And yes, the database is essentially the foundation of your project. I hate to say it, but it's true. It is the sticky glue that holds it all together. Well, it may not be that because there are other elements that actually do that. But it is definitely the cement that you have that is, encased with steel and iron and, big boulders generally to keep those foundations strong. And without a good database, well, everything can go to, where. I'm not going to say it because, I swear enough. I'm an English person. So I try not to swear when I don't have to swear. Let's just put it that way. Okay, so we have then our requirements. And for our requirements so far, we have here our customer and client, or customer slash client, or customer information or client information, or both, however you like. And we have some default fields there, plus some additional fields that we want to store. We also have that there for the company information. We have there our defaults also, as well as some additional fields. Now, yes, the defaults are a little askew, so really I want to correct that before we continue on, just to make sure that we don't actually. So let me come here to the select, and what I'm going to do is then move here the date of birth and photo and place that here into the additional fields. And then here we have here our support, our phone support and logo. Let's remove those and let's place those down here. Let's store then also as a default field the tax number or VAT number of our client customer. So we have that actually separate for the individual or for the client. So really we can handle and manage these completely separately. Now let's add then also here an extra email field. Okay, so we have that also here as a default field for our company. And that way, really, these are the default fields. Okay, so let me get rid of that one. And I can actually place that one up here maybe. And let's then here make some slight adjustments. So that is then, so we can think about adding some more, but we can do that later. Okay, so for now, that's really what we want. We have our default fields. We have then additional fields here that we want to store for that. And of course, that is what we want to be looking at. And we have our storage. And of course, our storage was pretty much the same. So I could go ahead and let me delete these. And what I'll do is replicate that here from here. Let me copy those over so they are then the same, our default fields for now. And then we have here our additional fields, as well as here the additional fields for our company information. Okay, so that is pretty much it for now. I'll move that up here so it's like so, and we can actually make that a little smaller so there's no confusion. That's our defaults. That's what it is. Okay, so we have that then defined, and then really in that case we can jump in and start thinking of our database. And we decided already what it was going to be, and yes, MySQL. So what I'll do is I'll place that up here as well. Let me go MySQL, and we can blow that up a little bit. And let's also go like so. There we go. There's our database type. And let me come here and stick also a nice little line underneath that. So we can go annotate and Shazam, we have a nice little line there. That's then our database that we are going to be using. Okay, so let's have a look at that then, shall we? Okay, so then I have my SQL workbench open. I love saying that. My SQL is funny. Okay, so my SQL workbench is open, and from here is pretty much where I could then connect to my database or connect to a client's database even if I wanted to, or generate and create and design databases. And that's exactly what we are going to use it for today. So here I'm going to come up here to File, and here I can choose New Model. And that will then open up a new model for me straight away, and I can pretty much then start creating the diagram or add a diagram, because that's what I want to do now, is add a diagram. And within this now, I can then start to design my MySQL database. So I have up here my arrow, my hand, my delete object. Looks like a rubber. I was about to say that. And we have here some tables. So we have here, first of all, to place a layer in a selected area, place a text object. We can place an image. We can place a table. We can place a new view. We can place a new routine. And then we can basically add relationships between the objects that we add, essentially the tables and views and so forth. Now, you may want to go ahead and go full blown and design your views and everything here. I generally design my views on PHPMyAdmin because it's just much easier. You just create your select and then store it as a view, which is something we can come to later on. But for now, well, we just want to lay out our customer/client database, or table should I say, as well as then the company table. So let's start with that. Let's create then a table, and as I said previously, I could essentially use this one table and store all client company information, which, yes, it would be easy, but it's a very bad idea. Okay, so never ever never do that. Never do that. Don't even consider it. I've never considered it. It makes sense to store it separately. Why would you want to store it in one table? So you want to straight away maybe think about adding a second table. So you have two tables, and by double clicking on it, it will open up here the editor that we have at the bottom here. And let me drag that up a little bit. And then here I can first of all change the table name. So let me call this one then clients. Okay, and as soon as I click in here, it will then highlight the field, but if I double click, it will add here ID clients for the first column name. And I want to do that and then choose here AI, so automatically increments or increases this item. So every time a new client is added, it will auto increment. It is also automatically set as a primary key, okay, which is what you really want. You want this as a primary key. So you could even use, instead of as an ID, you could use maybe some letters and define it differently. Whatever you like, you can do that. And of course here you have not null, which means that it is required. When you enter something into this table, it will force this value. And because it's auto increasing, which we have defined over here, it will also automatically update the entry number, okay? Okay, so now that the big truck has driven by, we can continue because, of course, I have the window wide open, or the door, should I say. And we want to then continue now and add our next field. So for our clients, we had said we wanted to have a client name. So I always like to start off with what it is. And yes, it does increase the name of that. So sometimes I do abbreviate that to CL or something else. So I'm just going to go client name. And then we also want the client address. And we also want to have the client area. We want to have the client zip code. And I generally add zip in here because, again, it is shorter than postcode. And client country. And then, well, we had then also said we wanted to store the add date. So let me go add date, like so. And then update date, like so. Okay, so now we have added each of our fields. We have them all defined. We can then continue to make adjustments here on the right-hand side of those. And the first thing that we would want to do, of course, is define the data type that each field will be. So in this case, we have here our client name, and we have here automatically defined varchar 45. So really for a name, I want to have at least 250 characters, at least 150 if it's first name, last name maybe, but 250 if it's only the name. Okay, and then we have below that the client address. And here, if I double click on that data type field, I can then choose here the drop menu. And then from here, I can change the data type that I want this field to be. So here, I don't want this to be a varchar because that type of field type would be too short. Now, the other type of text field would be here, the char field. And that would then be for small characters. So if you want to have, say, 2 character or 3 character as your maximum, 1 character as your maximum, so you maybe have A to Z, for instance, or country abbreviations, then that would be ideal. In this case, a varchar is not sufficient because it's 250 characters. The char will for sure not be enough. So what we want to choose then is maybe here a medium text or a long text. Now, both of these will then allow me to store more information. Now, medium text would generally be enough for typical amounts of information, and a long text, well, if you want to store a document maybe. So I will go here with the medium text and then choose straight away my next field. Now here we have the area, and there is a varchar of 250. So I'm going to increase that to 150. And hope that is enough. Of course, if it's not, then I will have to come back in here and adjust that or abbreviate maybe what has been entered within the front end. Now here we have then also our zip code. Now generally, 45 characters would be more than enough. Now I could shorten that to, UK standards, for instance, or US standards, or any country specifically, just by changing here the value from 45 to a different number, say 6 or 8 or 12, and then that will limit the amount of characters that I can then enter into that field. Now we have then here our country, and as some of you know, the country may have the option of using the drop-down menu within Scriptcase, and there we can then use the abbreviations. So varchar, I'll just leave that as it is, because then maybe we could even adjust that later or not. We have then here the add date and update date. Now for the add date, I will then double click that again, and then here I will choose then this time the date time. And that will then automatically add then a date time value for me every time this has been updated. And I actually want to drag that up to the top here. So that is one of the first fields that is actually added or listed, should I say. Because when I come to generate my Scriptcase applications, having the fields organized here within the database now will generally speed things up later on down the line and make things a little easier for you when you come to shuffling fields around within those applications. So having it laid out nicely how you pretty much want it straight away within the database, well, it's quite important, and like I said, it saves time. So now we have then also here the update date, and here I want to change that also again to maybe a date time. In fact, let's just go with date for that one. So it only stores then the date of when it was last updated. Okay, so that's pretty much the clients table here ready. And we can see that then it has been populated here with the fields that I have just added. And of course, I really want to copy that pretty much here for the company table. So let's go ahead then and create then the companies table. And I'll just call it companies. And that would then be called ID companies by default. I can also increase that, and again we have the primary key and not null automatically defined for us. Now there I will then add the company name and the company address, the company zip code again, and of course I want the area. Let's add the area here also, and I just realized of course we have a few more fields to add here, so I'll drag that up above the zip, and company country, and then of course we had then for this one the company VAT number, and then we want also the add date and also the update date. Now, we could, of course, store the logo here for the company. So I'm going to add that in there also. And let's drag that up here, the add date up to the top here, and the update at the bottom here. And straight away, I can start then to update those fields with the values that I want. So here for the update date, date time again. For the logo, I will want a 250 char. Okay, and that will be enough to store an image file, the path or file name and so forth of that image. We have then the company VAT. Now, 45 characters should be enough. I'm going to increase that because, yeah, you never know. The country, again, I will increase that to 50. Zip code will leave as it is. The area we will increase to 250 or 150 as we had before. The address, let's have that again as a medium text. And then we also have the company name. Oh, let's not forget the add date. And of course there we want to add again date and time. So let's change here for the update back to just date. I went right past it there. There we go. Okay, so now that we have those two tables defined, let me close this one here and just adjust them a little bit here. Now I have a few ways of working with this because now we have the client table and we have the companies table. Now I could just grab here the relationship option to place a new relationship, a one-on-one between the two, and go, well, I'll click on the clients and then click on the companies, and it'll add the company's ID here into this client's table like so, and you see it's connected now. Okay, and I could come in here then and then adjust here the company ID, drag it up the top here, and again the client is now always associated to a company. And generally, I don't think that's a good way to go. It is one way to go, but it really depends on what you are developing, okay? So we're not going to be doing that today because we don't know what's going to be happening in the future. I don't know what this project will become. Because yes, we still have a long way to go, and we're only just now on the database. Oh my God. And you think some of those Scriptcase videos are long. Well, you have no idea how long it takes to really create some of those. Well, I'm showing you. And of course, right now we're just with two tables. Okay, yeah, right. So let's continue then, shall we? So we have our first two tables, and we then want to link these two together. And as I said, we could create this relationship between the two. I could even do it the other way around so that the client is always locked to a company. And well, again, that's not really a way that I want to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another table, and this table is and this table will basically be the relationship table between the clients and our companies. So let's come in here and change the name of this. Let's call it client underscore companies, or in fact, let's go companies. Okay, companies underscore clients. And we add ID in here, auto increasing. Now, we don't really want to add any more in here. So I'm going to actually, in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a date add. And yes, I know, I just clicked in the wrong field. And I'm going to add a date update. Okay, so because this will be a relationship table, this will actually have some different information. So here I'll go date time, and on the update also as a date time field. Okay, so that's all our table is. That is it for our table. But now we want to store also inside of this the ID of our client as well as the ID of our company. Now, in some cases, you will not want to link the two together. In this case, I do want to. So I want to, in fact, that was the wrong way around. See, I do want to choose here the client's ID, or add this. Now I do want to add these tables in here. So I'm going to click here on the client's company and then click on the company's table and then choose the relationship again, and again click here on the client, and again click here on the company's clients table, and this time on the clients table, and that will then add both of those IDs into this table. So if I drag that up now, we can actually see here the two new fields that have been added. So let me adjust those. So we just have ID clients, ID companies all the time, and we can just drag those up. So the ID companies is first because I use companies underscore clients. Whether it is or not doesn't really make any difference because we're storing that in a separate table. So this meaning really that we can add as many companies as we want, and we can add as many clients as we want, and they can actually be completely separate. But then we can also join them together into this table where we then have a relationship between the client and the company. So really we could maybe add project information into this table later, or other update information to, relationship information from here, the company's table or the client's table. So because I don't know what's going to happen with this project yet, I think maybe this is the best route to go for this. I hope somebody corrects me if I'm wrong. Maybe I would actually be better off not enforcing this, because we could do that also. Let's actually go that way. Let's go that way. Let's just add in here the ID clients, okay? And we add in here also the ID companies. Okay, so we have then the ID's been stored in here, and we need to store those as integer fields, so numbers. So I'll choose that. Now it's just clicking crazy there already. And of course I can drag them up again here. And that way this table is actually completely independent from these two tables and nothing is enforced. Okay, so that could be one way to go. Maybe it's a bad way, because I think really having that enforced in this table would probably be the better way to go. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. I may be wrong. I am not a master of MySQL. I am not a master of PHP. I am not a master of anything. I just work things out pretty quickly and easily. Well, I say quickly, sometimes quite slowly, depending. But then when I know it pretty damn well. And in this case, well, yeah, there's a lot to MySQL, and there's a lot to many other things. So yeah, I'm a master of pretty much nothing, because life is, yeah, as we all know, always a big journey. So that is pretty much it for this video, as you can probably tell. And we will be continuing within the next video. Okay, so now that we have our database ready here, we have our company and clients table where we're going to store that information. We have here our clients table, and we have here our companies table. Now, in general, I could just actually skip this table entirely right now and not add any association whatsoever. But yeah, we got to start associating it sometime, somewhere along the line. It's really important. That's the whole idea of storing this data, analyzing it, and yeah, getting to the nitty gritty of information that we really want to know. And that's the way you need to do it, by actually having relationships between your tables and data. So in this case, I think we're going to leave it is. In this case, I think we will leave it as it is because we can build this relationship within Scriptcase. That is something we can do there. And of course, we can always come back to this and make that change if really need be. Ideally not. Ideally, you get the database perfect straight away, which is not always the case in my case, because I do, when I create a database, they usually end up being really big, and there's always some fields there that, okay, it's not working correctly, and you have to go make slight adjustments within the database. There's always something you miss. They're generally quite big databases. Okay, so that is it for now. Let's then first of all have a look at exporting this so we can use it in our next video. So we come up here to File and then Export, and then you can click here Forward Engineer SQL Create. Now if I add, I can add actually a title in here and store this. So let me actually, no, I'm not going to store this. I'm just going to save the database in a minute. I could store this as an SQL statement. I need to then choose the path here, so it would then open up your file manager in Windows, Mac, or wherever you are, and then it will then, of course, say, where do you want to store this file? And you choose where you want to store that file, in which folder, and you can add the name in here, and it will store it as a script for you. I don't need to do that right now because I'm quite happy with just having the script that it will output for me. And well, we have then here below, first of all, multiple options for the generation of our script. Okay, so we can actually choose here if we want to drop specific statements, if we want to drop the schema, the entire schema. So we can say, well, drop the database and all the tables, and then import what I am, copying over. We can do that automatically. So when you pass this script to your developer, this database, you could then basically say, well, it's ready for you, import it, and then of course remember, when you come to export that table, those tables and this database later, that maybe you do not have those options enabled, because then of course it will go ahead and delete those tables. It will delete all of the data. It will be gone into the ether, gone, vanished. You will never see it again unless, of course, your administrator developer dude he does a good job. In that case, he will have a backup and it will not be a problem. But otherwise, well, that's the way it goes. So maybe make sure you do not have these options checked in some cases. And of course, if he is a good guy anyway, he'll be checking the script before he even copies and pastes. Okay, because otherwise, how good can you be if you can't even copy and paste correctly? I don't know. Anyway. So we have then options here. In this case, we don't need any of those. I'm just going to go next and then have the option to export the MySQL table objects, which is what I've created here. So that's what we've created here, the free objects. Okay. Now, if we create some views or some routines, some triggers and everything, those would then be populated at the bottom here. Like for now, we see that we have here free total objects and free are selected. So if I only wanted to export one table, then I could choose to export one table by clicking here the show filter. We don't need to do that now. So yeah, let's go next. And there we have then our script that we then use for our database. So essentially I would just come along now, copy and paste that into PHPMyAdmin or into a text document, and Shazam. Yeah, that wasn't very good, was it? So yes, your database is then created and you can then start developing your applications within Scriptcase. But that, of course, will be in the next video. So thank you very much for watching. Keep watching, of course. In the next video, we will continue with this project. We will be pasting this code, or this script, should I say, into PHPMyAdmin, and then we will be starting to create the project within Scriptcase. Fun times. Thank you very much, and until the next video.